Hello, my name is Christopher Sands, and I'm a Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute. I'd like to talk a little bit about the challenge of the automotive industry that will face the Obama administration as they come into office. President Bush has announced a $17.5 billion loan guarantee program with a number of conditions which many people felt after a month or more of talking about auto industry rescue would be just the ticket. However, it's clear that this automotive rescue package is only intended to get the companies through March of 2009. There simply isn't enough money or enough incentive to help the companies to resolve all of their long-standing problems. So for 3 months, the new administration will have a chance to appoint key personnel, find its feet, and then begin to address the more important long-term issues for this industry. $17.5 billion seems like a lot of money, and the conditionality attached to it will at least make a dent in the problems to come. President Bush has asked the companies provide concessions from labor unions on wage rates to bring them in line with what Japanese manufacturers are paying here in North America. He's also asked for reorganization of management, cuts to unnecessary management expenses, including bonuses, and a further rationalization of dealership networks, which are a drag on automotive sales. All of this is possible, but it will be undermined somewhat by the new president-elect's comments about the deal. Shortly after President Bush announced the automotive rescue package, President-elect Obama indicated that for him, the mark of an automotive recovery, in fact, the mark of a recovery across the economy, would be more jobs for Americans and rising wages. This is a diametric opposite of what conditionality President Bush attached to this very same package. As a result, many people in the industry will assume that 3 months from now, when we look again at the automotive industry, we'll be looking at an industry where the premium will be placed on job preservation and on increasing wages, not bringing them further down. That will make it harder for the companies to make tough cuts in the next 3 months. One interesting aspect of this problem that has gotten very little attention here in the United States is the role being played by Canada in the North American auto industry. 100 years ago, automotive pioneers Henry Ford and William Durant, associated with General Motors, went to Canada to find licensees, eventually manufacturers who would become part of the Ford and General Motors empire. At one point, Chrysler built more cars in Canada than it built in the United States. Canada's industry now accounts for 18 to 20% of annual vehicle production every year. And it's so tightly tied to the U.S. industry through supplier networks and retail sales that, in fact, Canada cannot survive unless the U.S. industry survives. It will be impossible for the Canadians, who export 90% of the vehicles they produce, to be able to maintain their role in the auto industry if the U.S. market doesn't recover. At the same time, signals coming out of Washington that the U.S. may preference American jobs over jobs overseas have many Canadians worried that they could lose out in the automotive bailout sweepstakes, having their jobs sacrificed to reduce capacity in an industry plagued by overcapacity. In fact, some Americans, including some with the UAW, may see this as a good outcome. More jobs for Americans, after all, can't be a bad thing. But actually, it could be a bad thing, not so much for auto workers, but for taxpayers. Canada has been running surpluses in its federal budgets for more than a dozen years. They have all but eliminated their national debt. As a result, they have deeper pockets, an ability to help and to spread some of the cost of the rescue between Canada and the U.S. and provide the additional scrutiny of another investor, another stakeholder, if you will, in seeing the companies recover and reform their operations so that they're able to become competitive again. There's much to be said for including Canada in our automotive bailout strategy, not least helping to defray the costs on already overburdened U.S. taxpayers. One final note. This is not an apocalypse for the auto industry, but it will be a very tough year. In 2008, we expected to sell as many as 12 million vehicles in North America. Just as recently as 1996, we were talking about selling 17 million vehicles in North America. That's a sharp drop, but at least it was something that the companies had planned for at the beginning of the year and built their inventories to accommodate. However, we're now looking like we may only sell 10 million vehicles this year, and 2009 may be on the same pace. The bad news is the companies are selling fewer vehicles, which means they're seeing less revenue, which is one of the reasons they're in the cash crunch they're in today. But there is some good news on the horizon. The good news is, by planning for 10 million vehicles next year, the companies will not be as surprised. 10 million vehicles is still a substantial amount of sales and will likely help the industry to stabilize once it's made some painful cuts and reforms of some of its practices. We'll be talking about the auto industry more in the year to come, but it's clear that the Obama administration has a serious challenge facing it in the first quarter of 2009. My name is Christopher Sands, and I'm a senior fellow here at the Hudson Institute.